All right, finishing up with selection tools. Let's look at the last of our selection tools in the selections panel, the lasso tool. We have lasso, polygonal lasso, and magnetic lasso tool. To do that, we're going to come over to solitude, our guy walking on the sand dunes. And the polygonal lasso tool that looks like this, like a cowboy lasso something at the rodeo, I don't use it very often, right? It's used to make quick, rough selections. It is not accurate. It is not precise. The idea is just to make quick, rough selections. And what I'm going to do in this example, just to show you how it works, is we don't need all of this sand dune. We just need this guy. So I'm just going to click somewhere outside of him like this, and I'm just going to roughly draw and lasso around him to make a smaller selection of the area, to make it a little easier to deal with when we bring it into our main composition. Then I'm going to jump him up to a new layer, Command J. I'm going to jump up to a new layer, Command J, and I'm going to right click on the layer in the empty spot, right? So we have over here empty kind of gray area, right click and duplicate layer. We can call it the traveler, maybe. Use a traveler, traveler, and move it to our selections document and click OK. So now we're going to come over here to selections, and whoa, where is he at? I see the layer. Where is he? Well, that document was a lot bigger. That picture was a lot bigger than this picture. So if I Command minus a couple times just to shrink out, and then I do Command T with my traveler layer selected, I do Command T, you can see down here is the bounding box on mine. He's way down here in the corner. So I'm going to hit return to save that. I'm just going to take my move tool, and I know that he's way down there, so I'm just going to kind of click and drag and kind of move him up in this general area. I'm going to put him right around there like a rule of thirds. We also might shrink or resize him, so I'm going to right click on the layer and convert to smart object so we don't destroy any more pixels than we already have. And I'm going to hit Command 1 to get back to 100%. Next up, we want to make a more precise selection of him, getting rid of the background. And in order to make the most precise selections, you would use the pen tool down here. But technically, the pen tool is for drawing paths. And in this set of missions or tutorials, we're just learning about selection tools. Luckily for us, there's a selection tool that's kind of like a dumbed down version of the pen tool. Easier but less precise. Before we do that, I want to zoom in. So we're focusing just on this guy. I'm just clicking and zooming with the zoom tool, scrubby zoom, right? And then I'm going to hold the space bar to get my hand, and I'm just kind of dragging it up. So we're seeing him. He's blurry because we're zoomed in a lot on this guy, okay, from his original image, which is fine. He's going to just be in the foreground. Not a super perfect picture, but it'll work. I'm going to hold down on my polygonal lasso, or my lasso tool, and I want the magnetic lasso tool or the polygonal lasso tool. Alright, so if we do this, for example, I click, right, this one allows you to essentially draw polygons like that, right? Shapes a little more precise because you can click than the regular lasso tool. I'm going to Command D to deselect. The one that we're going to look at is the magnetic lasso tool, and it's kind of like a dumbed down version of the pen tool. So I'm going to click on this, and as I go along the edge, it's looking for contrast, and Photoshop's going to do its best job of adding anchor points where it thinks they need to be. Any sharp curve like this, I'm going to do it myself by clicking, and then I'm just going to follow along the edge, and it kind of lays down anchor points where it sees fit. But I know from experience of doing this during the practice before the tutorial that at these sharp points I need to add some anchors. Alright, something like this, and you can see it's way less precise than the pen tool, those of you familiar with it. But for something quick and easy, it kind of comes along and does a pretty good approximation of what we need. I'm not clicking on anything here. Well, maybe right at the hand I'll click there On these large shapes like this, except for where there's a big bin, I'm going to click. As I'm coming down, it's just guessing. Something like this, I need to click around the pant leg, come down in the foot, click, and I'm going to click all around the foot just because there's not much contrast between the foot and the shadow in the sand. As I come up here, alright, we can fix that one in a minute. It's inside a little bit. We're going to click right inside. We're going to keep coming down. I'm not clicking anything. It's doing a good job of kind of figuring it out. At the bottom, click. Now I'm coming up. And it's guessing for me pretty good. I'm going to come up inside of here, click around the shirt, up into the crevice. Really tight points you want to click. So obviously around the hand like this, we're going to click again. If you wanted to be super precise, and if I were doing this for a client, I would be using the pen tool, but I wanted to show you guys the magnetic lasso tool, and it's going to make that selection. Alright, I got a little bit off, which is fine. I can show you how to clean that up in a minute. But we got a rough selection of this guy, our traveler, and we want to add and create a layer mask. Alright, you can see where part of his hand got cut off. Alright, so we know that white reveals, so if we take our paintbrush and we switch our black to white, and we're on the layer mask, not the picture, and we take our brush tool, we make it smaller with the left bracket key, really small. I know that I can kind of paint over because white is going to reveal. And if I got too much of the background, I would do black and get out. So here, I got something outside the head I want to disappear, so I'm going to hit X. Watch this. Foreground, background, the shortcut key is X to switch. And I want black on top so that I can get rid of that stuff around the head. And I'm just going to kind of smooth it like that. And I'm going to hit Command 1 to zoom out. Take my Move tool, drag the traveler down, kind of like this. Let's see where I had him in my reference photo. Alright, I had his feet cut off, which is fine. We'll do the same thing here because he is missing a foot. So let's drag him down so that he's kind of cut off like that. And we have a shadow coming across this way. So how can we easily make a shadow? Well, let's command click in our layer mask. That is what's selected of our traveler. I can command click and you can see there's a selection of him. I'm going to create a new layer and I want to fill that selection. So I'm going to say edit, fill, and I'm going to fill it 50% gray, kind of like a shadow, and click OK. And now it's covering him. We'll wait a minute for the bell to end. Oh, there we go. Alright, so now I don't need that selection anymore, so I can Command D. I can come up to layer 1 and rename it Silhouette. Hopefully that's spelled right, something like that, close enough. And we know that there is free transform, Command T. And we're going to spin and move this shadow. Alright, so we got something like this. We want the shadow cast like that. We want to shrink it a little bit. And then I'm going to right click and do perspective. Alright, and I'm just kind of dragging some corners, kind of making it look like, whoops, it's going out. We can right click and try distort. And there we go, distort it a little bit. Bring some of this down. We don't want to lose too much. We still want it to look like him. And then I'm going to hit return to set it. Command T to rotate him again, something like that. And we need it to fade, and we don't want it gray. We want it more black, so let's multiply. And if we multiply it, we can see this shadow, right? And you can Command T. He might be going a little bit too much forward, so I just kind of go something like that. I fine tune it as I go. Made a silhouette 50% gray, then multiplied the layer, so we kept the darks, got rid of the lights, and it gives us a bit of a shadow. And we have our kind of traveler walking across, shadow matching the shadow here, and we have this cool space in the back. And I think we have a pretty good, hopefully a pretty good understanding of the selection tools. Again, you're not going to memorize them all right now, but it's a walkthrough of how they work so you can experiment on your own.